Blaster zone full.
What's up guys, Gripe here with a review of the S.H.Figuarts Darth Maul figure from their Star Wars line. And when I first saw the preview shots of this figure, I knew I had to get it. It looked pretty badass. And here it is. So let's check out the packaging first. And it's pretty much the same box as the Luke and Stormtrooper came in. Same size and everything. Obviously it has Darth Maul on it instead of those two characters. And you got a nice big window up front here. You can see all the accessories inside. You've got two heads. Lightsabers. You also have a few sets of hands in there. You can see them all there. And now on this side you have a picture of Darth Maul, and this is a picture of the figure, not from the movie. And on the back you've got a picture of Darth Maul in about 3 different poses, as well as close-ups of the 2 different heads, and some Japanese writing down there. And you've got the usual graphic they use on the Figuarts Star Wars boxes, and the Star Wars logo and Darth Maul up top, and some more Japanese writing on the bottom. Alright, so let's check out the accessories now. And like I said, this figure does come with a decent amount of accessories. Comes with 4 sets of hands in total, 2 different heads, 2 lightsabers, 2 single lightsabers, and the lightsaber staff connected. Now we'll take a closer look at the accessories, and here is the evil smile head. You can see it's really nicely sculpted. There's some great detail sculpted into it. It looks very accurate to a real head. The ears are very nicely detailed, nice horns on here, and the paint is super crisp and precise. You can see there's even a little silver earring on this ear. The horns are really nicely painted. The eyes are nicely painted. I love the teeth on it. They're sculpted and painted really nicely. You can see all the great detail on there. And again, everything just looks really good with those head sculpts. And this is the neutral expression head. And again, this is also really nicely sculpted. I think all the facial features came out really good. The paint on it is great. Very crisp and precise, just like the other one. And like the other one, this has a really nice paint application on the horns with the multiple colors. It's also got that silver earring on the ear there. And again, just an all-around really nice head sculpt. Everything is well proportioned and the paint is super crisp and precise. And here is the lightsaber staff. And this is connected. There's no way to take this apart. It comes connected like that. But you can see it's really nicely detailed with the paint and sculpt. And this is also really nicely painted with the different red and black accents on it. Everything again is very crisp and precise. Now we'll check out the 2 single lightsabers that came with the figure. And these also came out really good. The sculpt on them is great. There's a lot of little ridges, grooves, and buttons sculpted onto them. They just give them a really nice feel and look. There's also a really nice paint app on these as well, with the red and black accents all on there perfectly. And you can see the only difference between the two is one has a gray end and one has a black end. I was also rather happy that both of my beams on this figure were perfectly straight. On my Luke, the beam was slightly bent in the middle. Not a huge issue, but it's slightly annoying. And the way these lightsabers work is the beams come out, and you can just slot them right into the staff or the single lightsaber. And you can see there's that little peg there. Just goes right in, give it a little twist, and you are good to go. And you can obviously do one or both depending on how you want to display it, but there you go, and it looks great. And now we'll check out the hands, and like I said earlier, this figure does come with 4 sets of hands in total, and these are the straight lightsaber gripping hands, and these are recommended to be used with the single lightsabers. Since the index finger and thumb are connected, you really can't get the wide parts of the staff in there, which are at the 2 ends, so it's kind of useless for the staff. And here's the right one. And again, you can see there's some pretty nice details sculpted into it. And there's really no paint apps on any of these hands. It's just black on them. But there are some nice sculpted details on them. And these are the open hands. And you get 2 of those, left and a right. And we also have fists, of course. 2 fists, left and a right. And again, nothing as far as paint, but the sculpt is pretty nice with the wrinkles on there. And there's the left and the right. And last but not least, the second set of gripping hands. And the difference with these is, number one, they're at an angle, whereas the other ones are completely perpendicular to the wrist. These are probably at about a 30-45 degree angle. And the thumb and index finger are not connected, which allows you to get the wide parts of the staff in there. These are the only hands that will hold the staff. But like I said, they will hold singles as well. So now I'll check out the sculpt and paint on the figure, and I think this figure came out really good. I think the sculpt is phenomenal on this thing. There's a lot of great details. As far as paint, there's really not much aside from the head, so I know I covered the heads briefly when I was going over the accessories, but I'm just going to get a better look here so you guys can really get a good feel for it. These eyes came out amazing. Same thing with the horns. I really like the way the horns looked with the different washes on them, but the eyes are just mesmerizing on this thing. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. Yeah, it doesn't really look like it's going to focus, but I think you can get a pretty good idea of it. You can also see on the neck here, there's some nice tendons sculpted into the neck, give it a very lifelike feel. There's a lot of great wrinkles and creases sculpted into it, and everyone is unique. There's no copying from left to right. You can see there's a different texture on these cuffs, which looks really nice. They're glossy, whereas the rest is very matte, and it has a almost cloth-like texture sculpted into it, which is really nice. You can see all the wrinkles and creases sculpted into it, and again on the back you can see everything looks different. A lot of detail went into this, a lot of care went into the sculpt of this figure. And this whole skirt area is soft plastic, and it is 6 different pieces layered together, which allows it to look really nice when you're posing, and it does have a very linen texture to it, which is nice. It's also got some really nice wrinkles sculpted into it. And you can see the legs, again, also have some really nice creases and wrinkles. And they are different, actually, from one leg to the other. So everything is very unique about the sculpt of this. There's also some details sculpted into the pelvic area, which is actually kind of surprising considering it's going to be hidden by the skirt almost no matter what pose it's in. But I like that they put that level of attention to detail there. And again, you can see how different the 2 legs look, which is great. There's also some really nice sculpted details on these boots. You can see it's got these kind of triangular areas here, very light in there, but they are sculpted. You've got these straps here. You've got these ridges on the back that look really nice. Different seams in there. There's some ridges on the back of the boots, straps on the boots. This area over here is a different texture from the rest of the boot. And you can see there's also some wrinkles sculpted into it. There are no treads on it though. But considering how good the rest of the sculpt is, I'll forgive the lack of treads. And one other thing to note is the belt is a different color. It looks like a very dark brown, whereas everything else is black. Now I'll check out the articulation on the figure, and we'll start with the head. And he looks up about that high, which is not too bad. And he looks down about that far. And it is a double jointed neck and head, and you can kind of shimmy it back and forth like that. And if you isolate the neck, you get about that much movement out of it. And you can get a little bit of tilt on the head. Not that much, but it's not too bad. He kind of has to look to the side a little. You can also get some side to side out of the neck, and that's about what you're getting there. It is hitting the collar if you go any farther. It does rotate completely around. And now check out these shoulders. And the shoulders on this figure do look a little bit different than most of the other figure art shoulders I've seen. The inner socket looks like it's kind of broken into 3 different pieces, which is unique. I haven't seen that on any other figure arts. Get the arms up about straight. That's about as high as they'll go. You can also rotate the arms completely around the shoulder. And the shoulder joint itself does move forward, backwards, up and down a little bit. You also have some rotation there at the upper arm. And the elbow joints are single jointed elbows, similar to the ones they used in the Luke figure. You can see them there. They're just slightly bigger. And due to the sculpt, you can only get those about 90, just maybe a slight bit over 90 degrees. There is a little bit of rotation there, depending on where it's at in the joint, because the way the sculpt is, it kind of blocks it in certain angles. You can get a slight bit, you can see it there, you can get a few degrees of rotation. It does have the standard swivel and hinge wrists, and because the hands are replaceable, you can kind of get that hinge to go in any angle, whether it be up, down, or side to side. And you do have a decent amount of movement since there is a little bit of a gap in between the hand and the wrist. And there is no ab crunch on this figure, which is slightly disappointing, although I can understand, I guess because of the sculpt, they didn't really want to put it in. You can get a little forward and backward movement out of the waist, and you can get a little side to side, although you're not getting nearly as much as if you had an ab crunch on it. It does rotate above the belt, and you can rotate that completely around. And you also have some limited rotation below the belt, which is a fairly interesting choice, which I guess could help on some of the more dynamic poses. The hips are similar to Vader's in that they don't really move out of the socket at all. And this kind of limits how far up you can get the legs or how far apart you can get them. You're only going to get them about that far. You can get a pretty nice kick forward on this figure though. You see there, you can almost get 90 degrees out of it actually, which is pretty nice. And you can see the skirt really does not hinder that at all. And he's got a pretty decent back kick as well. And it does have single jointed knees, and you can see there's a really big cut there, which is nicely hidden by the skirt. And that allows you to get a pretty good bend on them. You can get, you're over 90 degrees. Not much, but you are over 90 degrees. And you can see there, you are limited though by the sculpt on the legs. And while I would have liked a double jointed knee for a figure like Maul, I can understand where you have to sacrifice because of the sculpt. You do have some rotation there on the upper leg at the hip joint. You can see you get a decent amount to the out and a little bit to the inside. Not a huge amount, but it's not terrible. There is a slight bit of rotation as well on the knee. And again, like the elbow, it's kind of limited depending on where the knee is in its joint. You can see as you bend it more, you get a little bit more rotation out of it. And again, you're not getting a whole lot though. There is no boot cut rotation on this. And now I'll check out the ankles. And you can get them down about that far. Unfortunately, that's as far as you're going. They do go up a decent amount. You also do have full rotation on those. You can get them all the way around. You just have to be careful. Sometimes it will pop out. And there is some pretty good ankle pivot on this figure. It's also got articulated toes, and those go up quite a bit, actually. I think you're getting 90 degrees on those, but they do not go down. All right, so now check out the size and scale of the figure. And he is the shortest of the Figuarts figures I have, and I know it's tough to tell from this angle, but he does stand at 5 3/4 inches almost exactly. And here he is standing with the rest of the Figuarts line that I have, the Stormtrooper, Luke, and Darth Vader figures. You can see he is the shortest, and you can also see kind of how the line is scaled. And to give you an idea of how he fits in with the Black Series, here he is next to Bespin Luke and the Stormtrooper. You can see he is a bit taller than Luke and shorter than the Stormtrooper. So overall, I have to say I really love this figure. Another great Figuarts Star Wars figure. The sculpt on it is just beautiful. There's lots of little details, and you can tell there's a lot of love and care that went into sculpting this thing. I also really like the paint app. Again, there's really not much to it aside from the head sculpts, but the head sculpts are amazing, and the paint on them is just phenomenal. The eyes look really, really good. The articulation is a little lacking in certain areas, like the ab crunch is missing, and the hips, knees, and elbows could be a little bit better, but due to how detailed the sculpt is, I can completely understand why they had to sacrifice some articulation. Alright guys, I hope you liked the review, and subscribe for more. Thanks.
Set blasters on full.